Welcome to the Worth the Wealth podcast, where we dive deep into what makes you truly wealthy and inspire you to believe that you are worth it. We explore it all, from taking control of your mental and physical health, navigating romantic and family relationships, to tearing down the walls around investing in the stock market, real estate, and beyond. Here you'll find inspiring stories of people just like you who stopped waiting for permission, bet on themselves, and are building a life where they don't just have to survive, they get to thrive. And we're going to teach you how to do the same. Together, we will open doors, overcome obstacles, challenge our limiting beliefs, and learn that a wealthy life is simple. You just have to learn how to work for it. The ways of wealth should not be gatekept, and it's time we talk about it. So let's jump in. Thank you for joining me today. I'm super excited because I feel like you do have so much knowledge. I am really grateful that you are on. I'm really excited to talk about what your unique ability is in this space of growing wealth, not just in money, but in the personal relationships and helping other women out. So I want to start off with just a quick introduction from you, who you are and what you do. And then from there, we'll chit chat.
Okay. So I've been a realtor for 20 years, almost 21 years now. And my real goal is to empower women to invest in real estate and create financial freedom for themselves so they can live a life they love. And especially women over 40, I feel like it's never too late to start. And I feel like women, for some reason, we've been kind of brainwashed or groomed to not invest and not take risks. And we sacrificed everything for our kids and our family and didn't take the risks, or maybe we wanted to, but we didn't because our husband wouldn't let us, or, people poo-pooed us and we listened to them. We didn't listen to our inner voice. And so my goal is to be the champion for women, that it's never too late to start listening to your inner voice and not care what other people think and take the massive imperfect action. And for them to believe they're worth it and capable and that they can learn this. So I wrote a book. I'm a best-selling author, and I'm in the process of finishing another book about how to invest in real estate for women. I thought I had the book all done, and I was going to send it to my editor, and I like to talk to God about everything. And I told God, thank you so much for helping me write this book. And I hope the editing goes well. And he says, well, your book isn't really great. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, what about the women that don't have high credit scores or high income, or maybe they had to file bankruptcy because their spouse screwed them over and they went through a nasty divorce, or or they personally had a medical problem. How do they buy investment properties? I'm like, they don't. And he goes, they actually could. And I said, really? And he said, yeah. That guy Pace Morby that you met at the Clever Summit, but you thought he was a nice scammer? He buys tons of properties and businesses without any bank, no credit check, no 25% down. You should figure out how he does that. So I called Carly, because I'd met Carly when we met Pace. And so I called her and I said, hey, I know that guy Pace we met, I said, tell me about that. So she sent me an affiliate link. I joined Sub2. And so I started studying it. And then I really believe that coming from contribution is really important. And so I was new to the community, and Carolyn Kane had said, on her newbie Zoom, make a vision board. I'm like, oh, wait, I know how to do that. And I can invite other people to come do that, because we do that for our clients, host them here. And so I invited the Sub2 Gator communities to our home. And we made vision boards together. And then I met more people, and they needed a place to have the Christmas party 2 years ago. And so we had it here. And then I met Jason Park, who's in Gators, and he told me he would help me get my first deal. And we do underwriting and go over deals and stuff together. But he helped me get my first deal. We own a house in Texas, in Maynard, Texas, that we bought with Creative Finance. And I bought an apartment building in Arizona, Creative Finance, with Pace and other investors. And so that's the beginning of it right there. That's kind of how I got started.
I love what you're saying about the different reasons why women haven't even thought about investing, and that you're pinpointing and attacking that problem. Is there something in your life that pointed you in that direction, or how did you figure out that was what you wanted to do and that was the calling that you wanted to accept?
So I wanted to buy some properties along the way, and I talked to my husband about it, who I love dearly, but he said no. And so I didn't buy them. And I could have definitely gotten both the two people to probably be the bank, even though I didn't know what that was exactly. But I know that they own those properties free and clear. And I had the thought, ask them if they'll just carry the paper. That was a thought that came to me. I deflected what I knew to be right in my soul. Like I knew that I felt directed to buy those properties and work out a deal with these people that own these properties. It just happened. I don't actually say it didn't just happen. I believe miracles are my normal and everything's working out for me. But I didn't have the courage or I don't know what the right word is, maybe courage, but the courage and the wherewithal to say, no, I really feel like I want to do this. If you don't want to do it, I'm going to do it anyway. And just realize that just because you're married doesn't mean you have to do everything your spouse tells you to do. Everyone gets to do what they want. I'm not trying to give marital advice, but I'm just saying over the course of my life, I didn't say, no, I want to do this anyway. And I think men just do it. And I don't know if it's our upbringing and we're just groomed to my life ambition was to be a stay-at-home mom, right? And being a stay-at-home mom, that's great. That is a great, great thing to do. And I think it's actually the hardest job. But I do think that if we're not prepared to take care of ourselves and be independent, whether we're a stay-at-home mom or not, I think that having financial freedom gives you the ability to be a stay-at-home mom or be a caregiver for elderly parents. Or maybe you can go volunteer and help people. Also, the thing that really, really changed my mind about this and to target in on women that have maybe sacrificed everything for everyone else is I'm older. I'm going to be 58 on Thursday. And my daughter has two little girls. And I just want it to be different for them. I look at my daughter's life and how different her life is because I really empowered her to be more independent and to think for herself. And she has a great marriage, but they work together. And if she wanted to do something, I don't think she would think she has to have permission. You don't need permission. I am giving you permission as a woman to go do what you want to do, right?
Yeah.
And I think we need permission, and I thought I needed permission, and our financial situation would be completely different if we had bought those two properties at those two different times over 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so it's not that I live with regret. It's just looking back and what's the lesson from that? And how can I help women know that they don't need permission? You can give yourself permission. You're worthy. You're smart enough to figure out and learn if a deal is a good deal or not. And you can find someone else like me or someone else to help you underwrite it and review it and figure out where the numbers lie. And people are scared and they think it's risky. But I think the riskiest thing is to live your life for somebody else and at your deathbed have regret that you didn't live a life you love. So anyway.
I love that. And so many things are just swirling through my head as you're talking because there's so many points I want to highlight of what you're saying because I know you're a very Christian woman, very family oriented, and that is a pride and joy for you. So I love the opinion that you're sharing that it doesn't always have to be woman submitting to man, but there's still that respect. And I know you enough to know that it's not a matter of I'm going to do what I want. My husband can't say that's not it at all. Mm-hmm. But I think it's an important thing for women to understand that you do still have an opinion even if you're married. And this is an interesting perspective coming from the two of us because of our similar religious backgrounds and the two routes that we have taken. Because I used to be Mormon, you currently are, but I know how some people in the church think of women, and it's very much so your duty is to be a wife and to be a mother, and that is what you're going for. That is your goal. If you put your career first, I remember being straight up told, even when I was engaged, I remember being told, my ex-fiance's aunt, I think it was, she focused on her career and now she's in her I think 50s or something like that, and is single, and it's because she focused on her career. So my little mind correlated oh, well, I have to focus on being a wife and mother, and now I'm almost 30. I turned 30 in 2 weeks, and I'm still single. It's not because I focused on a career. It's not because I deflected from God's true purpose from me. My whole reason for what I'm doing is for my future kids. I've heard so many stories, and I'm so glad that I've been able to hear so many stories of women that have helped me grow and create the list of what I am and am not willing to accept from a partner. But one of the things I've heard from multiple upon multiple women, even in the happiest marriages, they're still like, I was a stay-at-home mom, but I wish more than anything I had some kind of independence. They're in their 50s and 60s, and they're like, it's not that I didn't love that my husband worked and provided for me, and it doesn't diminish the masculinity of being the provider that I personally believe a man should be too, but they wish that they had something of their own, something that they built. Because women, at the end of the day, we're creators. We're the creators of life. We're the creators of really anything we want to be. And when we're not fulfilling that role first and foremost, it doesn't have to necessarily be a mother. It doesn't have to be a homemaker. It just needs to be a creator. I think that is so important to emphasize, because if I would have listened to the don't focus on your career, don't focus on making money, focus on being a wife, like I haven't gone on a date in months. It is so hard. And if I would have been like, well, I'm just waiting to be a wife, I'd be probably on the streets right now, because life is too hard to wait for a knight in shining armor to come save you at this point. So,
I have a story about that, boy. Let me tell you. But let me just say, I want to just say what you were just saying, because I didn't know that we were both affiliated with the Mormon Church and that you've been
mhm.
raised in the Mormon Church until somebody posted something. I don't remember what. And
I think
I
it was
thought
me.
it was
I think
maybe
it was me
you.
backing on something.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting is I was raised in a part member family, and so I don't have church culture inbred into me. As a kid, I thought it was horrible because we were on the outside of the culture, right? We were not included. And as an adult, I think it's the best thing ever because it's me and Jesus and me and God. But I wasn't indoctrinated with any of these things that I think are weird to organized religion.
Yeah, any kind of like higher demand, like organized
Mhm.
religion, they all have a lot of like the very, very foundational, I don't know if that's the even right word, but like very, very strong willed cultures that they all have.
Yeah, and well, I am at a point in my life. I've been judged heavily because, and I'm actually grateful for all of them because they've been very powerful teachers, not just inside the church but outside the church. Because we have a son that is doing fantastic now and helps so many people, but he was involved with drugs and alcohol and in and out of jail and homeless. And I had another son who had cancer, came home early from his mission with an aggressive cancer, and what happens is when people have a lot of ideas about parents who have a kid that lives in jail, especially in a church culture, but even in the
Mhm.
community, just outside of church, right? And what's interesting is I've had a lot of moments to decide what do I believe and don't worry about what other people think. Now, I've had a lot of heartache and mad at God, mad at the people in church, mad at just I'm mad at a lot of things. And at this point, I'm very, very solid in who I am, what I believe. I think that when you wrap up your identity in being a mom, I think that's where a lot of the harsh judgment comes from, is because their identity is like wrapped up in how their kids turn out. And
Mhm.
the problem is that's not who you are. And I think that's why what you're saying about having something else you do. We have to make sure that our identity isn't wrapped up in being married, right? Like we're divine daughters of a higher power, God, whatever it is, no matter whether we have children or not, whether we ever get married. But I don't think, and I do agree that church culture, a lot of times people think you can be married to somebody and you don't need permission from them to live your own life. I do
Mhm.
think, yeah, like what you said, be respectful, be polite. But I could have definitely made a deal with both those people without my husband and own those properties, and it would have worked out and we could have swung it, because I had a lot of self-doubt back then and I was very overwhelmed with kids, kids and stuff. But I do feel like it's just women in general are not taught to trust themselves, educate themselves, take the risks. I still see it in almost all the events we go to, where you go to these investment seminars and it's almost all men speaking, and they'll have like a token woman or two. And that drives me crazy. That's the other thing I really wanted to change. So I've been doing keynote speaking. I took some speaking classes. I paid for a speaking coach, and I've refined what are the 3 to 4 principles I teach and what are the stories in my life that go with those and what's the long version and the short version. So it all just starts with me. I only have control over Colleen Low, but I hope my legacy is that I did it imperfect. I did it as best as I could. But when I die, I hope there's more women on stages. I think that 35% to 40% of investors are women.
Yeah.
I hope that changes. So when my grandkids come to my funeral, they can say, "Oh my gosh, that grandma was a badass. She just she did it. And she didn't know what she was doing. I didn't know how to turn a computer on 3 years ago. And now I have a recording studio at my house." I just really think that we're so much more capable than we really believe we are, and we're all living below our divine potential. It is time to realize this is not your practice life. And no matter what all the failures and weird crap people have told you and all the things you did or didn't do, that they're irrelevant. Today's a new day, every minute's a new minute. And it's time to brush off and start asking yourself, like, what would I love? Start getting some clarity and vision on what would I love, and then get into community, because I don't think you can do this by yourself. Like McKenna, I know you from joining the community and going to events where I didn't know people. And just, I fell in love with you, and you have such good energy. And I think that's what we got to start doing. Get out there.
It's true. Get out there. Because the way that we met, for those listening, is we were in a Zoom meeting together in the real estate community that we're in. And her phone number was in her name on Zoom. And she had commented or said, I can't remember if it was in the chat or if she said it, but something about like, oh yeah, call me whenever to connect, just as a whole. It wasn't towards me. It wasn't toward like anyone in particular. I FaceTimed her and she was sitting there in her car eating ice cream by the beach, and we talked for a good time. And ever since then, we've been friends. Like, I think, and I love that about women. And I love that this episode is becoming more about like women taking up space and women believing in themselves. Because we're just not taught that in the world. And it's a newer concept, because if you think about it, it wasn't until the last like 20 to 40 years that women could own land without a man, be on a credit card without a man. Like, the leaps and bounds that we've made to the point where we can have 35 to 40% of women being investors. Over half a century ago, that would be unthinkable without a man. And we can have that now. But women need permission, and I mean, we can give it, but like you said, like, you give it to them, I give it to literally anyone listening to this. I don't care if you're man or woman, do what I'm about to say, but like, you have to be able to give it to yourself. Like, it's nice to get a pat on the back from someone else, but you will never go back once you give yourself permission to take up space. So like, that's the call out. Like, go give yourself, like, take up space, be imperfect, go do something that's going to make your life better, because rising tides lift all ships. And the push for me to start this podcast and to bring people on who I know and love and know have good stories to share, it all comes from the fact that I see everyone in the world have this awful mentality that like the world's going to shit. And although the outside world may be, you can change. And although you may feel like a drop in the bucket, as we all gain that insight and ascend to something higher, that drop in a bucket adds up when it's a million drops in a bucket. Like, the ocean is made up of drops of water, right? Like, so the more that we can rise together, we'll keep with the women theme since we're talking about us as women, and go after your dreams and take up that space. Again, we're creators. We can literally create a better world for us, our generations, and the future ones. But it's a matter of believing that you are worth that and believing it enough to actually take action. Because it's one thing to listen and get the dopamine hit that you're getting from listening to us talk. But like, what are you going to do after you stop listening to this episode that pushes you to be a better person? Like, you have to make some sort of change that's going to make it evident that you're actually going to do something, not just listening to this.
Yeah. What's the practical application, right?
Yeah.
How are you going to implement this? And it's interesting, while you were saying that, it reminded me, because like, I don't know what I'm doing with YouTube, right? I just keep interviewing people and keep finding out about them and getting their stories. And when I just finished registering at Squad Up Summit, which is the Paces Morby World, he does his event once a year, and we were in Dallas, and I just finished registering. I was at I think they call it the Atoli. I don't know, that big hotel. It was humongous. And it has huge like reception areas, like out front. And I was just talking to someone, and this young girl comes running up to me, and she said, "Are you Colleen Low?" And I didn't have my name badge on. It was before registration for the event. I just had checked into the hotel. I said, "I am." She goes, "My name's Chelsea. I just have to give you a big hug." She goes, "On the airplane, I listened to your YouTube channel, and I heard Pace Morby speak. And then the next interview that popped up was Brenda Jones. And I was thinking on the way to the airport that I don't even know who I am to come here on this plane, and I could never do this because I'm a mom with young kids and I homeschool my kids, and I just don't think I could do this. And I had imposter syndrome the whole way. And then I just had this thought to watch your show because I saw that it was on, in the group. And so I listened to it. And
Yeah.
then, but the interview that she goes, your interview with Pace was great. But the one I really needed was the mom of a toddler sharing how she just closed her deal on an RV park with a bunch of other people. And she shared how I asked her, how does she juggle it all as a mom, right? And she works full time at a high level job. A lady came up to me and hugged me that I didn't know. Me, I'm just this like person starting out, right? And I just thought, it's the ripple effect. So if we just impact one other person, right? Like Chelsea's my one other person. I already can check the box that some lady came up to me. And so I introduced her to Brenda and connected her. And then she said the conference went so much better for her because she shifted from thinking she didn't belong there to like, oh, I can do this, right? Just from
Yeah.
one interview, for me taking imperfect action, and Brenda lives by me, right? So she came over to my house and she came and made her first vision board here. That's how I met her, right? And I just think that we just think these little steps we're taking, right? They may not seem significant, but it's really literally the only way you can fail at this is if you give up, right?
Yeah. And
That's it.
I think too on the imperfect action, I love synchronicities because I was actually thinking about this when I was driving home to come get ready to record, is we want to come off as perfect, especially as women. We want to come off as perfect. We have the perfect hair, the perfect makeup. When I first started thinking about doing a podcast, I was like, this is going to suck because I'm going to have to do my hair and makeup every day. And I'm showing up with a nasty ponytail and mascara only, and I'm just rocking it. But we want that because, especially within the past 10 years or so, it's been all social media. And we hear all the time, social media is a highlight reel. It makes it so we cannot really stand on the foundation of what we were saying earlier of taking up space and having that confidence in yourself. Because you think you have to show up perfect. But when I have similar experiences to that. I've had people come up to me at meetups and know who I am. And I'm naturally a very outgoing and extroverted person. And I'll FaceTime some random chick from California, right? Like, it's not like I'm afraid to talk to people I don't know. But I do have my moments of insecurity, and those moments, they get to you, but it's about working through them in whatever fashion that looks like. It can literally be in going up to someone at a bar, which I did for the first time the other night, by the way. And like, I was terrified, but I was like, you know what? If I don't do it, I will always be afraid. And what is the worst thing he's going to do? Say he has a wife? Okay, cool. Have a good marriage. Bye. And so
Yes, I love it.
so I'm like, whatever. And it was successful, so it's fine. So I was thinking about it earlier today of like, I'll get on Instagram lives, and like, I used to record myself making calls to sellers on Instagram live. And when I show up and I have my human moments, I've noticed when I have come authentically and tripped up on my words and just been cool with it and kind of made fun of myself and was lighthearted and was just me in human form, that's when people feel safe, because then they know, because you are inadvertently giving them permission to be imperfect as well and just show up as themselves. It's very weird being on the other side, and to call myself an influencer at this point makes me want to barf. But also, like, it is something I want to do. I'm not getting into this whole space, and by whole space I mean like investing and in the podcast world, to stay small. So like, eventually, yeah, I will have all of those followers. I will have more and more people who recognize me, which is the weirdest thing when you first have people recognize you from the internet. It is so weird. They're like, oh my gosh, I follow you. And I'm like, that's weird. But it's cool. When you allow yourself to be that way, people see it and are influenced to be themselves too, even in their own imperfected ways. And then they get that bug of like, ooh, it feels really good to be me. And it compounds. It compounds for you too. And it becomes this synergy when you are allowed to be yourself around other people, where it feels like we aren't being the fake that society tries to make us continuously be. Like, we just kind of put all of these regulations on ourselves that don't matter. But all it takes is for you individually to find yourself and love yourself enough to take up the space and to live authentically. That will literally change the world.
Yeah, and I think that if you share just the highlights and all the good things, it's problematic. It's not, you cannot connect with people.
Mm-hmm.
Even when I went to the hospital, I fell and got a concussion and I wasn't feeling really good. And I posted it. I posted a picture of me in my pajamas. My dad drove down just to check on me. Literally took a picture. I took a picture outside when I said goodbye to him. But I took a picture and I was in my nightgown and I had been in bed all day with a concussion. I'd been at the hospital the whole night before. And I looked terrible. I didn't do hair, makeup, nothing. I took a picture with my dad. And God told me when I got back in bed, you should post that on social media. And my first thought is like, I look terrible. He goes, yeah, that's why you should post it. I'm so glad I did, because I posted it and I'm so glad that I'm posting real Colleen. It doesn't have to be perfect hair or makeup. It doesn't have to be. I post the real stuff. I post when I used to go, when my son was had cancer. I posted the scary stuff. I posted when I visit my son in jail, right? I posted like what you see with Colleen Low, basically what you get. Like I don't think I
Yeah.
hide too much, and it's so freeing too, not to have to put things through a filter and wonder, oh, should I do this or should I not do that? Because if you don't like me, I'm actually okay with that. Like,
Yeah.
I asked my publisher, because I bought this picture of Jesus reaching through the water to pull up Peter from when he was walking on water and he went down and he
Mm-hmm.
lost faith, and Jesus pulled him back up. My friend Dennis is he's awesome. But anyway, when he was at my house when I bought this picture, and he did all his videos, because he's really big on YouTube, he put this up and he's like, Colleen, I think you should leave this up here. And I'm like, no, I do real estate. I don't mix Jesus and real estate. That's what I told him. This is, a while ago. I'm like, yeah, I keep that stuff separate, right? Because I think you're really missing the boat. And so my publisher, she came over and I said, hey, the picture was there. I said, hey, what do you think about when I do my interviews, leaving the picture of Jesus up? She goes, well, you and Jesus are like this. She goes, the great thing is it will repel everyone who doesn't align with you, and then it'll attract the people who it does align with you. She goes, it's
Yeah.
great. So I think we just have to be true to who we are, if that makes
Yes.
sense, whatever that is.
Yes. And I love it will repel those who aren't for you and attract those who do. And that's where it gets into switching into abundance. Because there's somebody for everybody, which means there's a tribe for everybody, and your people will find you. I love too when you were like, don't put it through a filter, because it reminded me of the 99% rule. But the 99% rule, that it's like it's easier to do something 100% of the time than it is to do it 99% of the time. And that's because if you're doing something 100% of the time, there's no room, like there's no margin for error. So if you've set a goal and you're like, I'm going to do this, doing it 100% of the time, it's like, well, that's easy because I know I'm going to do it. When it's the 99%, you're like, this might be the day I don't do it. But then it leaves that room. But it's the same thing with living authentically. It's like you were saying with posting or not posting, like, should I post it? I don't know. But if you're living 100% authentically, that's not a question. You already know what your purpose is, what the message you want to share is, and it's 100% of the time there. So when you can learn who you are enough and learn to love yourself enough to be in that 100% category, your life will completely change. And that's something I'm learning to do. That's one of those things where I'm a 3-step ahead, not at the like top of the top. I don't know how to be 100% authentic yet, but I'm sure as hell figuring it out pretty quick. Especially like going through all of this and showing up when I don't want to. Me being the perfectionist Taurus that I am. Not having the aesthetic that I want. But it's okay because in a couple of years, I'll look back and be like, I'm so glad I did this on May 5th, 2025, because May 5th, 2026, 2027, it'll be so much better. And I'll be like, look where I came from. But I had to step in that first step to get to this one. So I love it. And I love the encouragement that you give to women to be themselves and to continue individuality, because it's so easy to lose ourselves to everybody else because we are givers.
Mm-hmm.
And it is such an important thing to keep on the front of our minds of no matter what, if you're a mom, if you're not a mom, if your career is kind of taking over, those kind of things, we are so apt to pour into others that we forget that we have to refill ourselves. And
Yes.
like
We're not prioritized. We have to
no,
prioritize ourselves.
yeah, 100%. And that's like the biggest part of my why is like I want to pour into myself now so that I have a consistent stream when I do get married and have kids. My cup not only runneth over, but that faucet is continually turned on. So whatever my husband is doing, I can be a homemaker and a mother, but still have that fulfillment of, okay, well, I built this before you even came into the picture. I'm gonna say it like this, and it's going to sound bad, and I don't mean it like it is, but authentically, I don't need you. And I've had so many women tell me that. They're like, you don't have a boyfriend because you don't need a man. And I've had men tell me that on dates. They're like, I can't date you because you don't need a man. I was like, that's not a compliment to you.
Mm-mm.
That's a
No.
compliment to me because you're right. I don't need you. But the thing is, I don't need you, which means if I want you, it's that much more of a solid relationship because I'm not sucking you dry.
I like what you're saying though, because what happens is we should pick a partner based on qualities that make our life better. Finding someone that makes you laugh, finding somebody that can handle stress well. I feel like dating is an interview process. I don't think people complete you. You complete yourself. And so I totally disagree with this weird idea that you need a man. Nobody needs anybody. They don't need you. You don't need them. Let's come together and both be healthy and enjoy life together. And I really think that's why we have such a high divorce rate. And then the satisfaction of marriages, most people I know are miserable in their marriages. And so who wants that? That's
Yeah.
horrible, right? I love and adore my husband and we're good friends and we, you know what I'm saying? Like, so who wants that? And so you don't want it. When someone says you don't need me, why does he need a project to fix? Like,
Yeah.
so that's not a healthy relationship. We want two people coming in like this, not like husband, wife, you're going to fix me, you need me. Like it needs to be two people coming together to live an authentic, productive and create a beautiful life together, right?
Yeah.
And so
Exactly.
I really, really believe, and there's some scarcity mentality, like you have to get married. I totally disagree with that. Do I think it's great to get married and have a family and do all those things? Oh, yes, of course. I think that's wonderful. But I see a lot of people making decisions to get married out of the scarcity mindset that I have to marry this person because they don't want to be alone.
Yes.
And I think that is so scary because now you're involved your whole life with some person that you picked because you don't want to be alone out of fear and scarcity. And fear and scarcity comes from Satan, okay? God gives us abundance mindset, right? And my favorite scripture is 2 Timothy 1:7, which is, for God hath not given us a spirit of fear. So who gives us fear then if God doesn't? And God gives us power, love, and a sound mind. And so when I was dating, helping people that are less fortunate or that are struggling is important for me for bringing joy to my life. But I wanted to make sure whoever I married wanted to do that same kind of thing authentically, not like begrudgingly because they liked me or because they wanted to have sex or whatever it is. Do you know what I'm saying? Because men will do almost anything to have sex, right?
Yes.
So there was a lady that I was friends with that lived in South Central LA. And I knew her because in middle school, one of my church leaders told us we should look for the people on the outside, right? And I was pretty popular. I grew up in an affluent neighborhood, and this girl was bussed into school, and I knew exactly who I needed to be friends with when they described, this girl dressed horrible, smelled horrible, had greasy hair, mismatched clothes, and she's getting bussed to the richest neighborhood in the city. She totally doesn't fit in. She sticks out like a thumb. Everyone makes fun of her. I think every day must be a drudgery. So I decided to become best friends with Peggy in like 6th grade or 7th grade. So I ended up becoming friends with her and just shocked out of my gourd when I went to her house, which was a studio apartment in the worst neighborhood, in our city, completely different from where I live. I'd never seen anything like it. And it changed my whole life. And I lost touch with Peggy because she ran off with a man like 30 years older than her and got pregnant and never got back in touch with her mom. But anyway, her mom, Joanne, stayed in touch with her my whole life. So when I was dating seriously, I would take them up to go out to lunch with her or to pick her up to do Easter or Christmas or whatever. But we'd do the whole day with her, and she didn't smell great and she didn't dress great. And it was in a horrible neighborhood where we picked her up in LA in comparison to where I was used to, right? When people were like grossed out by her and they're like, oh, wow, I'm glad we got rid of her, dropped her off. That was awful, right? I would just say, hey, what did you think of Joanne in your day, right? To see what their response was. Just nothing, just ask them. And however they answered, that meant we're either going to move forward and keep dating or we're not, because this Joanne's my real friend. But I also don't want to be, I don't want to be hooked up to somebody who is fake.
I love that. But yeah, I think I don't want to get too into it because we could go on hours upon
Oh yeah.
hours of
Yeah, sorry, we're way off topic and that's my fault. Sorry.
No,
Bridget.
here's the thing. One thing I love about how I've set it up is there is no topic. It is stories on true wealth, which includes relationships and family matters and things like that. So this is right on topic. But I do think, and I will do an episode, I think, that goes through my thoughts, but on things I've had to unlearn from like religious cultural things. Because that's one of them. Going back to what you said of like getting married to just not be alone or because it's what you are expected to do. That is exactly why I got married to a man that I knew for like 8 months. And did I just say married? Because I definitely been engaged. If I said married, I can't remember what I
yeah,
said.
you said married, so you were engaged to him?
I was engaged. Yeah, I was not married. That's why I almost got married. 4 days before the wedding, he called it off. But it was very, very quick, and that was a very cultural thing. And it's one of the things that has defined who I am as a person in the best way. There's a lot that we learn and that we have to unlearn, and it doesn't necessarily have to be religious upbringing. It can just be like growing up in affluency versus growing up in poverty. And it's so important to have conversations like this because it gives you a different perspective. So I love all that you're doing to help women get up on stages and to give them permission to be themselves and to do what they want to do and not have to rely on an outside source. It doesn't even have to be a husband. I could be listening to the opinions of my parents still being unmarried, or for like single mothers, you can get such an identity wrapped up in an external person. But I say this all the time to everybody. I was like, the only person who is with me at 2 a.m. crying when I'm having a mental breakdown is me. So if I do not have a good relationship with me and I am not happy with where I'm at, no one else, no kids, no husband, no parents, no siblings, no friends, no one is going to make you happy because you're the only person who you are on your deathbed with. You're the only one in your head at the end of your life that's like, did I do what I wanted to do, or did I let external sources take over and define who I was as a person? At the end of the day, it's a scary thought, and that's something I keep with me all the time.
I think it's beautiful.
I'm not the only one.
It can be scary and it can be awesome because that gives you all the power. My journey is I thought that all these other things controlled me. No matter what, you have all the power to do whatever. Just like you said, you're the only person that can make you happy. Your husband will never make you happy. Your kids will never make you happy. Your job will never make you happy. And so when you realize that happiness is an inside job And the stories you tell yourself about anything is the most important thing, and that you are in control of your thoughts, not the other way around. And that you can question your thoughts, and that you can let go of thoughts that are no longer serving you well. And we all have things that no longer serve us well, that have been passed down generationally to us, whether you come from a religious family or not. Like my uncle was always told he was really stupid by his stepfather, right? And like stupid. And so he always said, I'm going to prove him wrong. I'm going to prove him wrong. And so he ended up going to Harvard, and he was on like Johnny Carson all the time. But he only did it to prove his stepdad wrong, because his stepdad used to tell him how stupid and incapable he was. So whatever those stories are, whatever my family said, money doesn't grow on trees and you got to work hard. There's all these things that we've all been told that don't serve us well, because it's not, hard work doesn't bring you money. Working smarter and getting aligned with the right people that can shorten the learning curve on how to invest quicker, that's what helps. Of course, you need to do the work, okay? But inspired action that's aligned. You can work hard. I know so many people that work hard their whole lives and never get ahead. They just barely live paycheck to paycheck. So when you get into community, and then when you start doing the work on yourself, like you were talking about, and get happy with yourself and start questioning all the things that you've ever been told, and then pick the beautiful things from your past that still serve you well and that you love, and then pick and adopt from other things and think tanks and wherever truth is, because there's truth everywhere. So when we find these truths, and then we pull them in, like I used to get really screwed up by thinking I had to think really big and have it all work, and then just big, huge thing. But it was so big that then what would happen is I'd get paralyzed, because it was just like, oh, I just can't do this. It's too much. It's not happening quick enough. And so when I read the book, Atomic Habits, and he said, you just have to get 1% better every day, I'm like, oh, no. And he says you get immobile. And one of the reasons people never accomplish anything is because they were taught to set these big goals and then chunk it down. And I was like, yeah, but it's so big. I just need to know what I need to do daily. And it's so much easier to think, I just need to get 1% better. And then if I didn't get 1% better today, give myself grace. And tomorrow we're going to get 1% better. I think we just have to love ourselves. I do think that is the key. You can never outperform your self-identity. So you will only attain the level of success that you feel you deserve and that you're worthy of.
I love that. All of that segues really perfectly into like my concluding question. And you kind of already answered it, but I want to know if you want to elaborate on anything different. For those who are just starting out on their journey of finding their own self-worthiness, what is one piece of advice that you would give to them to help them understand that they are worth what they want in life?
Okay, you ready? I'm talking to you, but I'm talking to the person who is just listening to this for the first time and is really on the precipice of change, but isn't sure she's worth it, or if her background and all the things that have happened to her, she doesn't understand that they're happening for her. Because you may not have the skill set to invest in real estate. You may not have the skill set to do all these other things, but you've been successful in other things. And when you realize that you have a track record of showing up for yourself day in and day out, that you can just start learning new skill sets. And so you can give yourself credit for the things that you are doing well. And then when our self-confidence grows from taking action, you can listen to all these YouTubes you want, you can read all the books you want, but until you start implementing and screwing up and realizing that failure, see, the problem is you went to public school most likely. And the problem is between public school and your family teaching you A, B, C, D, E, and F, A's are good and F is bad, failure is bad. That has been so ingrained in you. And a C, mediocre, that's horrible. So let me tell you, all that stuff is bull crap. They've been lying to you and brainwashing you all these years, and you can just let go of that instantly. It doesn't take a long time to let go of this stuff. People say, oh, I'm trying to let go of everything. No, you can let go of it quick, or you can let go of it slow. That's also a choice you make. You can literally decide, poof, I'm done with all that. Like, I literally used to get so upset about like all the judgment people used to do, and I'd rehash in my brain all the horrible stuff people that should have been nice to me have done to me. And one day God said, "Are you going to just keep going on and on and on about this stuff forever? Because like this is really like unsettling for you." I'm like, "Yeah, but they did do this stuff." And he's like, "Just let go of it." And it's amazing how I let go of it one day, and now I just go forward and just love them and send them love and peace. I don't hang out with them and break bread with them, but I'm just saying it can be quick or slow. And then literally, you need to get clarity on what you would love. You need clarity. Like, you should be able to close your eyes because, see, your brain can't tell the difference between your imagination and what is real life. So, you should be able to close your eyes and visualize what you would like to have in your life as if it's already happened. And it should feel so good and be so grateful that it's already arrived and it's already happening. I actually watch my ideal life video of what my life looks like. And I was just even at BYU Women's Conference, and I was there 2 hours early in this huge gym at the Smith Field House. And the guy was playing the piano and doing a sound check. And I'm like, "Oh, do you mind if I play the piano?" So I played, and he took a video of me. And then I'm like, "Do you care if I stand on the podium and you take a video and a picture of me so I'm going to switch it out in my ideal life?" Because I have pictures of other people speaking, but now it'll be me speaking to this huge group, right?
That's cool.
And so just start visualizing your ideal life. Don't let other people get to you. Don't let them have your energy. Notice how you're feeling and your emotions. Get better at self-regulating. Learn to do breathing and listen to sound baths and learn how to really self-regulate your own emotions. Pay attention to your emotions, but don't believe every thought you have. And if you're in toxic relationships with people, start spending less time with them. And I promise you, God will bring all the right people to you at the right time. I quit being friends with, or started spending way less time with a lot of people that I've been friends with for a long time, and just started spending time at home or alone. And now I have the best friends all over the world and doing the coolest things. And I'm being interviewed on this podcast by a lady that I picked up a FaceTime, not a phone call, FaceTime. And I just talked to her and became friends with her. And so just start trusting the process more and love yourself more and take a chance on yourself and just start doing it. You're going to have some like, holy crap, what am I doing moments, and expect that and just work through it and have a good buddy to call and check in on and tell her, "Hey, this is happening," and you work through it, right? I have an accountability partner, and she's had a couple bad deals, and I've had some weird stuff, and we just help each other get through it. We listen. Sometimes you want to have a friend that's the box that just sits and listens, and then sometimes you need somebody that's going to go be the hammer and fix things for you, right? And help you get stuff done and be a resource for you. So find that kind of a person that can both be a box for you and be the hammer for you.
Yeah, simply put, get going. Make the imperfect action. Take those chances on yourself and get going. I am so appreciative of you. I'm so glad that you came on and spoke with me and with everyone else who's going to be listening to this. You are such a light, and I love all that you're doing. I'm excited to see where you go going forward, because I know it's only up from here. You're at 401, but we can get you up to 400,000. But
exciting. I just love you so much. I'm so glad we're friends, and I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
I'm really, really proud of you. And I hope when you get to 1,000 people, maybe you'll bring me back on your show or something.
Yes,
for fun. We can celebrate.
I'm kind of assuming that everyone who is going to be interviewed in the first like 10 episodes, while I'm still like running with my shoes tied, basically, that I'm going to bring everybody back and we'll do other episodes on different things. But yeah, I would love to have you back on and dive more into what you're doing. I would love to be on your podcast too.
Let's do it.
But we'll set up a time for sure. But yeah, so thank you all. So thank you all for tuning in to this episode of Worth the Wealth. I hope that it gave at least one or two things that you can go and improve on and helps you feel a little bit better. Please take some action and make yourself 1% better every day. And we will be back next week with another episode. Have a good day.